Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Lindsey series. This is one of the 9 districts of Lincolnshire and one of the county's most rural. It has 128 civil parishes. Let's see which one this episode's all about. Welcome back to West Lindsey, everybody. It's a misty, murky morning today, but hopefully that's not going to detract from any of the villages I've got planned for you on this particular day. Now, this is a very small one that I'm doing today, and I'm starting outside this house right here. Now, you might not be able to see this because I'm a bit far away, but there's a sign outside this house that tells you what it is. It's called Linwood House Farm, which is kind of a corruption of the modern name for this place, which is Linwood. The West Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop, located at 20 Ropery Road or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. And this video is also sponsored by Jamie's Fitness Studio, based on Low Road, Greyingham, near Curtin in Lindsey. Jamie is one busy lady. Check her out by calling 07906 749 574 or emailing hello@jamies.co.uk. Online membership is available. There's a link to her Facebook page in the description. Jamie's Fitness Studio. Get fit, get happy, get healthy. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome back to the Market Rasen area of West Lindsey and to Linwood, a small settlement that sits around 2 miles south of the town. It's primarily laid out along one street, the B1202, which bends its way through the small cluster of houses and farms before running towards the site of St Cornelius Church. It's not a big place at all, but it's surely interesting. Linwood's population is considered to be just over 100, although official statistics also include that of neighbouring Buslingthorpe in the figure. Wait until you see how small that place is. The village is part of a major woodland conservation area which is centred on Linwood Warren, some 1.5 miles to the northeast. It's an important area because it's designed to promote and encourage the repopulation of the woodlark, a native bird that's become almost extinct locally. Despite its small stature, Linwood was the birthplace of a 15th century English bishop, namely William Linwood. There's some references in the church here to the Linwood family, most notably John and Alice, who were William's parents, in the form of 2 monumental brasses. And speaking of churches, Linwood actually has a second church, but you'd need to be a local to know it was even there. It's nicknamed the Little Pink Church, and it's quite easy to miss. I won't though, so let's go and find it, along with all the other little secrets in little old Linwood. We begin at the eastern end of the village on the B1202 on the part of the road which runs from east to west. It's where most of the houses and farms here are located. The Church of St Cornelius is quite a way away. You can walk to it if you like though, but be prepared to get your feet wet and muddy over these fields. I'll be driving to it later. For now, let's check out the village. The settlement we know today as Linwood was originally Linwoad, spelt in the same manner as Linwoad House Farm. What's more, the modern settlement wasn't even remotely close to where it is now. It was originally situated to the east of the church. You can still see some small remains of the original village from the churchyard. Linwood has never been big enough to sustain any massively important amenities. There's no shop, school, pub or post office, but it does at least still have a post box, and it's a Victorian one no less as well. So you'll probably be able to tell we haven't actually gone very far. I can still see the farm where I started in the very far distance over there, so you can tell how small Linwood is. Now, despite the fact that Linwood is so small, it actually has 2 churches, would you believe? One of them, though, you'd be lucky if you sort of knew it was a church. You would have to know before you came here that it was a church. And I say was because it no longer is a church. It's this building here, which looks like a shed, and it's very overgrown and obviously disused. It's pink as well. Let's go and check it out. Known to the locals as the Little Pink Church, this former Methodist chapel made of corrugated iron stands at the roadside, hidden away behind a myriad of undergrowth. The fact that it's in such a sorry state is quite disappointing for a number of reasons. For one, it's now almost impossible to read the writing above its entrance. It was a primitive Methodist chapel which in the 1920s was moved from nearby Halton-cum-Beckering and rebuilt here. It served the village until 1959. In 1965 it was sold and then became a store. Once beyond the chapel, the B1202 begins to bend southwards towards Lissington, and the houses start to get a little more thin on the ground. Not that they were ever jam-packed together to begin with, you understand. The biggest property down here, though, would be the Manor House, which is what we're coming up to. It's easily the most impressive building in Linwood, and earlier this year it was valued at an eye-watering £872,000. Blimey. Okay, and I've arrived at Southfields Farm, which is pretty much the route's end point, so it's a very, very small route. However, there is one thing we haven't yet covered, and that's the other church. Now, to get to that, you have to drive down this road here and take a left turn, because the church here in Linwood, the main church, is a long way from the actual village itself. So now I'm going to take myself back to the car, back that way. Not going to take me very long, to be fair, and then drive down to the church and cover that last. So here we are at the church. Now, the other end of that footpath that I was talking about earlier comes out here, directly opposite it. There you go. Can't even see the other end, like I said at the beginning. It runs across these fields. No way on earth I was walking across all that lot, you know, just to get here. Easier to drive. It's a bumpy old road to get down to the church, actually, but at least this church is well used, as you can tell, because the little car park in front of it has got loads of tyre tracks, so I imagine a lot of people come down here for various reasons, and the church itself is hiding behind these trees. So let's go in through the gate and have a look at this one. It's got a very tall spire, which you can't see at the moment, but you're about to. Linwood's church is a Grade 1 listed building, and it's dedicated to St Cornelius, a former pope. It's the only one in England which has this dedication. It dates from the 12th century and it's built of ironstone rubble. Its tower dates back to the 14th and it houses 2 medieval bells. There used to be 3 in the 1500s. The tall spire on top was added later. It was open, a little surprising given it wasn't even 8 AM here. Now, some of the windows in here are quite notable. I picked out one in particular which was very interesting, which I'll talk about shortly. Its walls are lined with quite a few brasses and tablets, and they include one which is actually Linwood's War Memorial. This remembers the one and only World War I casualty from the village, Henry Cook Holdershaw, who died in a French hospital in 1917. At the back of the church are 2 brasses depicting the wealthy wool merchant John Linwood and his wife Alice. So what about William? William Linwood was John and Alice's son, whose date of birth is sketchy, but it's believed to have been in or around 1375. He was a bishop of St David's as well as a diplomat and canonist. He was educated at Gonville Hall, Cambridge, although details of that are few and far between. Linwood is remembered mainly for an elaborate work known as the Provincial, in which he provided his view on the ecclesiastical decrees enacted under the presidency of the Archbishops of Canterbury. Linwood's gloss gives an account of the views accepted among the English clergy of his day upon all sorts of subjects. It's a controversial work which has been dissected and scrutinised over the centuries. I myself couldn't possibly begin to understand it fully. However, the Catholic Encyclopedia see it as an important work. It was first published in London in 1496, but the edition produced at Oxford in 1679 is often seen to be the best. One of the windows actually has a plaque underneath it which tells you all about it. It's this window here. There you go. Now underneath this there's a brass which reads, "This window is erected to the dear and constant memory of Lewis Conway Gordon, Colonel." People who know stuff about colonels and regiments and stuff like that can probably fill me as to what this bit means. But he was a colonel, 5th son of William Conway Gordon, Esquire of Linwood, and of Louisa, his wife, born in 1838, drowned at sea in 1895. And there's a quote underneath, "Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it." It's quite nice. And that's the window which is dedicated to him and his wife. Now also in here, as I walked in, I found something which I thought was quite good, and I think it, to be honest, is very accurate. There's a news article on this little table, and it reads, the headline reads, "Linwood Church, is it the Market Rasen area's best kept secret? An occasional series on the area's history is told by those who know it best." So I imagine the people who wrote this will know what they're talking about. I think it is. I think it is, because I don't think a lot of people know this church is here. Obviously, it goes into great detail about the church here in this article. I'm not going to read all of it. So, you know, I think it's worth a read if you come in here. But just to walk around the church itself, I think is probably sufficient, you know, to understand that it is quite a well out the way, a well hidden, well kept secret, I guess. I certainly didn't know this existed until I researched Linwood before I came here today, and I think it's well worth coming to, quite frankly. So yeah, that's the church at Linwood. Now we're not quite done with this area of the village, because I'm just going to go back out of the door and take a left turn. Make sure I turn all the light switches off. 1 second. We're all in this little porch. There's not much room in this porch. Oh. Straight, you can't see what's going on behind me, but me trying to shut doors and turn light switches off. So I'll take a left turn here and head through the churchyard. You might have noticed on the little news article I've just shown you, there's a cross somewhere in this churchyard, the remains of a cross. I haven't seen it yet. That might be it over there actually, but I'm not totally sure. Oh, it's there. It's there. There's the cross. Right there. But the church itself is certainly nice enough, isn't it? So, yeah, come down here. Come down to Linwood and come down to the church and have a look around it. It's well worth your time. And I think Linwood, in general, is well worth your time, I'll be honest with you. It's been a good little place to cover this. Small, but perfectly formed, wouldn't you agree? I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and this has been the parish of Linwood, and I'm out.